Hey guys, it's Mythik Max, and today I will be giving you guys a tutorial on the most efficient way to run a Heavenly Pharaoh deck in Mythik Trading Card Game. So, just some champions, Heavenly champions. We've got Horus, who is an essential card in this deck, Sebek, Anubis, Nephthys, Ozymandias, King of Kings, Set the Destructive. There's plenty more. We've got, so our heavenly mythics are these three. So we have Khepri, the rising sun, Atum-Ra, the midday sun, and Khnum, the setting sun. So obviously in mythology, the Egyptians believed in the sun cycle, which was so important to them. And Khepri, the scarab, he was the one who basically rolled the sun into the horizon. Atum-Ra, who was combined in eventually in Egyptian mythology. He's at the midday sun when the sun is at its most powerful, and Khnum the ram is the setting sun. So these cards all deploy each other, which we'll get into later. The other heavenly mythics are Osiris, of course, who can basically revive champions from the grave every turn, and then Ra's ultimate rival, Apophis, the Sun Slayer. He has the ability to essentially clear the entire field, including himself. Also, has technically the second highest base attack in Mythic. So this is a tier 4 rarity. This is extremely hard to come by, but we'll have him in our deck for fun. So the goal, ideally, is to get this cycle going. So what happens here is Khepri is deployed by eliminating let me get these cards here. So we need a Horus, we need a Heavenly Pyramid, and a Heavenly Obelisk. So if you have these three cards on the field, you can sacrifice them, or excuse me, you can eliminate them and deploy Khepri. So Khepri is 8,000 attack and defense. This is a pretty good card. And Khepri allows you to look at a face down card. So if your opponent has a bunch of face down fortifiers, Khepri allows you to basically say, hey, what is this card? And then you can see what it is, and hopefully that'll help you in some way. So Khepri's pretty strong by himself. So you deploy Khepri. Now, what is awesome about the Heavenly Sun cycle is Khepri can do damage by himself. He's great. But if for whatever reason he's eliminated, either by an opponent or if you somehow find a way to eliminate him yourself, he goes to the grave and immediately deploys Atum-Ra, the midday sun, just as the rising sun becomes a midday sun. And then Khepri gets returned to the mythic slot. So now you have a 15,000 attack champion on the field, and Ra makes all of your opponents have to keep all of their cards face up. So any face down fortifiers now face up. It doesn't mean that they're activated, but you can see what every single face down card is. Now, again, this is your main damage doer, right? And it's very hard to defeat a card with 15,000 attack. Now, if for some reason Ra gets destroyed, he does the same thing that Khepri does. He will go to the grave and then get returned to the mythic slot, and he'll deploy the setting sun and Khnum, and you probably want this in defense stance. And so Khnum is the weakest of the cards, and he doesn't have any specific power. But if he is eliminated, then the following turn, Khepri comes back, and the whole cycle starts again. So these three, Khepri, Ra, and Khnum, is essentially an unstoppable cycle, and it's once you get these, that's you can almost always win. There are a couple ways to defeat them, which we can talk about in another video, but you want to get these on the field. So how do we do that as quick as possible? So for Khepri, again, we need Horus, Obelisk, and Pyramid. And of course, these are free, right? Magic cards are free to play. So these require no cost. Horus is a level 8, so he'd require 8 action points, which is 2 turns of saving up. But how can we make sure that we get all these cards as quick as possible? Because the Heavenlies, their weakness is it can take a while to get these, because you need specific cards. Whereas like the Olympian deck, Reign of Kronos only requires 4 of any Olympian champion. These summoning deployment conditions need these specific cards. So what's nice about Horus though is he can add 1 heavenly magic card to your hand as soon as he's deployed, which means you only really need Horus and 1 of these because you can get the other, right? So if you deploy him and you have an Obelisk and you don't have, right, you don't have the Pyramid, you have Obelisk in your hand, you deploy Horus, then when this card is deployed, add 1 heavenly magic card to your hand. So then you can just add, you search your deck for Pyramid, right? Or the other way around, depending on which one you have. Now you have both of them, you just play these outcomes Khepri. So that's what's amazing about Horus. You want to run 3 of them. He's only tier 2 rarity, so you can, get him in any booster box. I believe you can also, he's in the starter deck as well, just 1 copy. So, so that's how. So you want 3 Horuses. Now another important card, because it's difficult to get these specific heavenly magic cards, and there are other heavenly magic cards as well, right? There's the Tomb, Sphinx. These are used to deploy Apophis, which we can get to later. But Laborers of the Pharaoh. This is the searcher for magic cards. And again, this is also only tier 2, so it's not super hard to come by. If you run 3 of these, then you have a 36% chance of getting this card in your first hand, and that will give you any heavenly magic card you want, right? So, so you want to run ideally as many of these as you have in your deck, right? So, let's say you have, right, all you need is these 2 cards to essentially get Khepri-Ra and get the cycle, right? So let's say you have 8 action points. So that's right. This is important because you can't play this on your very first turn unless you had a card that like Autumn Fertility or something that adds action points. But this if you have enough action points to play Horus, you only need these 2 cards to get Khepri-Ra, to get this cycle going. So first, deploy Laborers of the Pharaoh, right? Deploy 1 enduring heavenly magic card from your deck. So let's say we'll deploy Obelisk. This disappeared. Now you deploy Horus, and when this card is deployed, add a heavenly magic card to your hand. So you add the other one, Pyramid, deploy this, sacrifice these, Khepri comes out, right? So, so Laborers of the Pharaoh makes this really efficient. You want as many of these as possible. Now, Apophis is essentially the same thing. He just requires the other 2 magic cards, and instead of Horus, he requires the Destroyer. He requires Set, which is right here. So, this is pretty easy. Now, again, the question is, what happens if you don't have 8 action points on your first turn, or whenever you have these cards, right? So that is when Ozymandias is essentially he deploys a heavenly card from your deck. So let's say you don't have Horus at all, or you have, you know, Horus in your hand and one in your deck, and you just can't play him. This is a free card, right? Because you get 4 action points every turn. So Ozymandias, so every turn you can play Ozymandias. So let's say you've got like, I don't know, let's say you've got this is your hand, you've got an Obelisk, a Sphinx, and Ozymandias, right? Let's say you already played the Sphinx, because you're going to have a whole bunch of heavenly magic cards. So you don't really have any, right? You only have Obelisk. That's the only card you have that's a requirement for Khepri. So, so your turn starts. You gain 4 action points. Boom, Ozymandias. Now, when you control 2 or more heavenly cards with different names, you can sacrifice this card to deploy a heavenly card from your deck to an open champion slot. So basically, it deploys a heavenly champion. So we have 2 or more heavenly cards with different names. We have Heavenly Sphinx and Heavenly Pharaoh Ozymandias. So we can sack this card, it'll go to the grave, and deploy Horus. Now we already have Obelisk in our hand, so then Horus's power activates, right? Add a heavenly magic card, add Pyramid. Now we have everything we need. And so play these, sacrifice these to get Khepri. Now what's interesting about the Sphinx is this is when an enduring magic card would go to the grave, you can send this card to the grave instead. So the actual powers of Obelisk and Pyramid. So Obelisk is you can send this card to the grave to make a mythic you control unaffected by opponent's magic fortifiers. And Pyramid is you can send this card to the grave to make a mythic you control unaffected by opponent's champion power. So let's say they have a whole bunch of fortifiers on the field. You want to bring out Khepri, but you want him to be protected, you know, by the fortifiers. Or if it's Ra, maybe you want him to be killed and then bring out Ra and protect Ra. So what you can do is these 3, right? You're going to sacrifice them to bring out Khepri, but then what you can do is activate Sphinx, and let's say you want to keep Obelisk because they have a whole bunch of fortifiers. So you can send this card to the grave instead of sending another card in the grave. So now what you're doing is sending these 3, because you're saving Obelisk, sending these 3 to the grave, bring out Khepri, and now if you want, Khepri's protected, right? So, or what you could do is attack, and they have some, you know, fortifier that kills Khepri. Now you bring out Ra, and now, let's say you attack with Ra, and they kill him with a fortifier. Now he's protected. You can send Obelisk to the grave, and Ra is completely unaffected by fortifiers and magic cards for the rest of the game. So yeah, that's basically how you get this cycle of the sun going, how to run a heavenly deck. So you need Horus is the most important, Pyramid and Obelisk. These are the 3 requirements for Khepri, but then these 2 cards, Ozymandias and Laborers of the Pharaoh, let you search for these if they're not in your hand. So you want to run as many of these as possible. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, comment, or, you know, join our Discord and message me or message the community there. You can find more information at mythictcg.com, and thank you guys again.